Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling something pretty relevant, I think, to a lot of us, multicultural working environments.
Yeah.
And to guide us, we've got this pretty fascinating book called The Intercultural Dynamics of Multicultural Working.
Oh, great book.
Yeah, and it's, full of research and insights from this project called ICOPROMO.
Right.
Which, just for context, was all about building, intercultural competence for, we've got a pretty globally mobile workforce these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fascinating how this book, positions this whole shift to a more, what they call, cosmopolitan workforce.
Yeah.
It's not just some, trend. It's a fundamental change in how we work.
Yeah.
Almost back in the day when we shifted from agricultural to industrial.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This is a big change.
So it sounds like we're in the middle of a pretty big workplace evolution here.
Yeah.
Does the book offer any guidance on how we can adapt and thrive in this new landscape?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good.
The authors present this model of what they call intercultural competence.
Okay.
And it's got 8 key areas. You can think of it like a framework for navigating, all these intercultural interactions more effectively.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Let's break down these 8 areas. What's the first one?
So the first one they talk about is biography.
Okay.
And that really focuses on self-awareness. So it's all about understanding how your own personal history,
Right.
background, influence, your perception of other cultures.
That makes sense. We all kind of come to the table with our own unique experiences
Yeah.
and biases. So how does the book suggest we kind of unpack that baggage?
So it encourages us to reflect on key moments in our lives.
Okay.
Like our childhood, our upbringing, our education.
Yeah.
And it prompts us to consider, how those experiences may have shaped our values,
Okay.
our communication styles, all that.
So it's about kind of developing a deeper understanding of ourselves as a foundation for understanding others.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And they have a thought-provoking example
Oh, cool.
of how, childhood experiences with teamwork, say in a sports setting, can impact how someone approaches collaboration in a diverse workplace later on.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of introspection, I think, and becoming more culturally competent.
Definitely.
What's the next area the book delves into?
So then it shifts to ethnography,
Ethnography. Okay.
which focuses on observation. So it encourages approaching these workplace interactions with a curious, almost anthropological lens.
Like we're studying a new culture within the workplace.
Exactly, yeah.
Alright.
They emphasize the importance of carefully observing how people from different cultures communicate,
Right.
both verbally and non-verbally.
So more than just passive observation, it sounds like it's about active listening and analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. They actually call it action learning.
Action learning. Okay.
Yeah. The idea is to actively experiment with different communication styles and reflect on the results.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that'd be valuable in a multicultural environment.
Sure.
What other areas of intercultural competence does the book explore?
So the next area is diversity management.
Okay.
And that takes a more kind of broader organizational perspective.
Okay.
So it examines strategies for creating inclusive workplace cultures where, differences are valued
Yeah.
and leveraged.
It sounds crucial. I mean, in today's workplaces, can you give an example of what a diversity management strategy might look like?
Yeah, so one example they highlight is implementing mentorship programs
Okay.
that pair employees from different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about fostering a culture of learning and understanding across cultures.
That's a great example. It kind of shifts the focus from, simply tolerating diversity to actively promoting it.
Exactly, yeah. The book argues that diversity is not just a box to tick. It's a source of innovation and creativity.
I like that perspective. It aligns with the idea that a diverse range of perspectives can lead to better problem solving and decision making.
Yeah.
What's the next piece of this intercultural puzzle?
So emotional management is the next key area.
Okay.
And it emphasizes the importance of being aware of our own emotions.
Right.
And how they might be perceived by people from different cultures.
That's something we often overlook, I think, how emotions can play out differently
Yeah, for
in
sure.
cross-cultural settings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mhm.
They argue that developing emotional intelligence is crucial for building trust and rapport in these multicultural teams.
It makes sense being able to recognize and manage our emotions. It's such a fundamental skill
Yeah.
for effective communication, especially when we're navigating cultural differences.
For sure.
What specific tips does the book offer for managing emotions in these situations?
So they stress the importance of understanding your own emotional triggers and developing strategies for staying, calm
Mhm.
and composed in challenging situations.
Yeah, right.
They also highlight the value of uh, seeking feedback from trusted colleagues
Yeah.
to gain insights into how your emotional expression might be perceived.
So it's a combination of self-awareness and external feedback to kind of fine-tune our emotional responses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They encourage us to develop a mindful approach to emotions,
Right.
recognizing that, our emotional expression can have a significant impact
Yeah.
on our interactions, especially those from different cultures.
That's really helpful advice for anyone, I think, working in a diverse environment.
Yeah, totally.
What's the next area the book covers?
So next one delves into the very heart of cross-cultural interactions,
Oh, okay.
which is intercultural communication.
Okay, communication's always a tricky subject, even within our own cultures.
Right.
How does the book approach this area?
So it provides a framework for understanding how different cultures approach communication,
Okay.
emphasizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
So it's about recognizing that what might be considered good communication in one culture might be perceived differently in another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, they explore the concept of high context versus low context communication styles.
Oh, can you explain those concepts? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So high context cultures rely heavily on unspoken cues and shared understanding. So communication is often implicit and nuanced.
Right.
Whereas low context cultures, they value direct, explicit communication,
Okay.
where meaning is clearly stated.
So someone from a high context culture might perceive a direct communication style as rude or insensitive.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility.
Wow.
And they give a compelling example of a business negotiation
Okay.
between a German team, which tends to be low context,
Okay.
and a Chinese team, which tends to be high context.
Right.
And it highlights how easily misunderstandings can arise when those styles clash.
Yeah, that example really underscores how crucial it is to be mindful of our communication styles,
Yeah.
especially in these cross-cultural settings.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some other key takeaways from that intercultural communication section?
So they stress the importance of active listening, seeking clarification when needed,
Right.
and being willing to adapt our communication style
Okay.
to better connect with people from different backgrounds.
Makes sense.
They also encourage us to be patient and understanding,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that miscommunications are bound to happen
Yeah.
in cross-cultural interactions.
Those are valuable reminders for sure.
Yeah.
What's the next area the book tackles?
So intercultural interaction is next.
Intercultural interaction.
And
Okay.
it delves into the complexities of navigating real-life interactions.
Okay.
And it emphasizes the importance of perspective-taking
Okay.
and sense-making.
Those concepts sound a bit abstract. Can you give us a concrete example of what this looks like in practice?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So they analyzed the infamous BMW Rover merger in the 1990s.
Oh, that's an interesting case study.
Yeah.
I recall that merger didn't end well.
Yeah, you're right. It ended in a bitter separation after just a few years.
Wow.
And the book argues that cultural clashes played a significant role in that breakdown.
I'm curious to learn more about how they apply that concept of intercultural interaction to that case.
Yeah, so they highlight how differing communication styles created tension between the German and British managers.
Okay.
So the German managers, with their low context style, perceived the British managers as indirect and evasive.
Oh, wow.
And the British managers, on the other hand, felt the Germans were overly blunt and insensitive.
So the classic clash of communication styles leading to misinterpretations and breakdowns in communication.
Precisely, yeah. And they argue that this ultimately stemmed from a lack of effort to bridge those cultural differences.
Right.
And create shared understanding.
That's a powerful example of how neglecting intercultural dynamics can lead to real-world consequences.
Yeah.
What else does the book have to say about navigating these complex interactions?
So they encourage us to challenge our assumptions
Okay.
and develop what they call a critically creative mindset.
Critically creative mindset. I like
Yeah,
that. What does that
exactly.
mean?
So it's about being open to different perspectives,
Okay.
being willing to step outside of our comfort zones,
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, it sounds like a call for both flexibility and resilience
Yeah, totally.
in our cross-cultural interactions.
For sure.
What's the final area of intercultural competence the book explores?
So the last area is intercultural responsibility.
Intercultural responsibility.
And that challenges us to move beyond simply being aware of differences, to actively engaging with them in an ethical and responsible way.
That sounds like a significant step. Can you elaborate on what intercultural responsibility looks like in practice?
Yeah, it's about recognizing that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for others as well.
Right.
It's about considering the ethical implications of our decisions and behaviors
Right.
in these cross-cultural contexts.
So it's about being mindful of the impact we have on others, especially those from different backgrounds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's about striving to create a more equitable and inclusive world
Right.
where everyone feels valued and respected,
Yeah.
regardless of their cultural background.
This intercultural responsibility concept, it feels like a powerful call to action.
Yeah.
It prompts us to be more than just passive observers of cultural differences.
For sure.
What are some tangible ways we can put this principle into practice?
So they offer a range of practical suggestions. For instance, they encourage us to educate ourselves about different cultures,
Okay.
to challenge our own biases, to advocate for inclusivity in our workplaces,
Right.
and to engage in meaningful dialogue with people from different backgrounds.
Those are great starting points for anyone who, wants to become more interculturally responsible.
Yeah, I think so.
We've covered a lot of ground here. We've discussed 7 of the 8 key areas from the book: biography, ethnography, diversity management, emotional management, intercultural communication, intercultural interaction, and intercultural responsibility. That leaves just one more area to explore: working in multicultural teams.
Right. The big one.
Yeah, and we've touched on this topic briefly, but I'm eager to delve deeper.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
It's particularly relevant, I think, in today's globalized world.
Yeah.
Where collaborating across cultures is increasingly the norm.
It definitely feels like a topic that deserves a dedicated deep dive.
For sure.
Shall we pick up there in part 2?
Sounds great.
All right, see you then.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the intercultural dynamics of multicultural working.
Yeah.
As we transition into this final key area, working in multicultural teams, I'm particularly interested in the book's take on the nuances and practicalities of collaboration in these settings,
Yeah, this section's incredibly insightful. It builds upon the concepts we've already discussed,
Right.
like clear communication, emotional intelligence, perspective taking, but it also dives deeper into the specific strategies for navigating the unique challenges and opportunities of these multicultural teams.
It feels like a culmination of all the previous areas we've explored.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we unpack those strategies, can you kind of paint a picture of the current landscape of multicultural teams? What are some of the defining characteristics and trends?
Yeah, so one key characteristic is the increasing prevalence of virtual teams, where members are geographically dispersed and rely heavily on technology for communication and collaboration.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about differences in language, right? We're talking about a whole spectrum of cultural norms and values that come into play in these virtual settings.
Totally. And the book emphasizes that cultural differences can manifest in various ways.
Okay.
From communication styles and decision-making processes to attitudes towards hierarchy and conflict resolution.
Okay.
These differences can be a source of friction if not addressed proactively.
So awareness is clearly the first step. But how do we move beyond simply acknowledging these differences to actually leveraging them effectively?
Yeah, so the book stresses the importance of establishing clear team norms and expectations from the outset.
Okay.
It's about creating a shared understanding of how the team will operate, communicate, and make decisions. This might involve, explicitly discussing preferred communication channels, meeting protocols, or conflict resolution strategies, like upfront.
So it's about proactively addressing potential challenges before they arise.
Totally.
Rather than waiting for things to fall apart and then trying to fix them.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book suggests that by setting these ground rules early on, teams can foster a sense of psychological safety, where members feel comfortable expressing their opinions and perspectives.
Yeah, that psychological safety piece feels crucial, especially in a multicultural setting.
Absolutely.
Where individuals might be hesitant to speak up if they feel their cultural norms are not being respected.
Right. You've hit on a key point. The book emphasizes the importance of creating an inclusive environment where diverse perspectives are not just tolerated, but actively sought out and valued.
It's about recognizing that each team member brings a unique set of experiences and insights to the table.
Totally, yeah.
It's about shifting from a mindset of us versus them to we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And our diverse perspectives are our strength. How does the book suggest we foster the sense of unity and shared purpose in these teams?
So one strategy is to use what they call cultural mapping exercises.
Cultural mapping. Okay.
Yeah, where team members share information about their cultural backgrounds and discuss potential areas of synergy and divergence. This can help create awareness and empathy among team members.
It sounds like a proactive way to surface those potential cultural blind spots.
Totally.
And create a shared understanding of the cultural landscape within the team.
Exactly.
What other practical tips does the book offer?
Another suggestion is to create opportunities for informal social interaction.
Oh, okay.
Building those personal connections can be a powerful way to bridge cultural divides and foster a sense of trust and camaraderie among team members.
That makes sense. Those water cooler moments, virtual or in person,
exactly,
can be crucial for building rapport and breaking down those barriers that can sometimes arise in more formal settings.
Absolutely. The book also highlights the importance of clear role delegation and task allocation, making sure everyone understands their responsibilities and how their contributions fit into the bigger picture can help minimize confusion and enhance accountability.
It's about creating that clarity and structure,
Yeah.
especially important in virtual teams where it's easier for things to,
Right.
fall through the cracks.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any other strategies they highlight?
Yeah, so they emphasize the importance of regularly checking in with team members
Okay.
to gauge their understanding, address concerns, and ensure everyone feels heard and valued.
Right.
This might involve conducting pulse surveys or facilitating open forums or simply scheduling regular one-on-one conversations.
It sounds like a blend of proactive planning and ongoing communication is key to navigating the complexities of this kind of teamwork.
Exactly. And the book reminds us that working in multicultural teams, while challenging, can be immensely rewarding.
Okay.
When these teams function effectively, they can unlock a level of creativity, innovation, and problem solving that homogenous teams they can't achieve.
It's about seeing those cultural differences not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and learning.
Precisely. And the book concludes with a powerful call to action, urging readers to embrace the challenges and opportunities of intercultural collaboration, recognizing that our interconnected world demands this shift towards a more inclusive and interconnected way of working.
Feels like we've come full circle, connecting back to that initial concept of a cosmopolitan workforce.
Yeah, exactly.
This deep dive has provided so many valuable insights.
For sure.
As we approach the end of our discussion, I'd like to shift our focus to the listener and how they can apply these insights to their own lives. What key takeaways would you like to leave our listeners with?
I think one key takeaway is to remember that intercultural competence is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
It's a continuous process of learning, unlearning, and relearning. Be curious, be empathetic, and be open to challenging your assumptions.
It's about adopting that growth mindset, recognizing that we'll never have all the answers.
For sure.
And that there's always room for improvement in our interactions.
Exactly. Another key takeaway is to remember that communication is key.
Yeah.
Be mindful of your communication style.
Right.
Seek clarification when needed, and be willing to adapt your approach to better connect with people from different backgrounds.
It's about being both like self-aware and other-aware in our communication.
Yeah,
Recognizing that what works for us might not work for everyone.
absolutely.
Right. And finally, remember that building trust and rapport takes time and effort.
Yes.
Be patient, be respectful,
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to invest in building those relationships with your colleagues.
For sure.
The rewards of this kind of collaboration are well worth the effort.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
That's a powerful reminder to end on.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up this deep dive,
Right.
I'd like to pose a final kind of thought-provoking question to our listeners.
Right.
How might you apply these insights from the intercultural dynamics of multicultural working
Right.
to your own professional life?
Mm-hmm.
What steps can you take today to become a more effective
Yeah.
and responsible intercultural communicator and collaborator?
That's a great question to ponder. I encourage our listeners to reflect on their own experiences and identify areas where they can apply these principles. Every interaction, every conversation, it's an opportunity for growth and learning.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into the fascinating world of intercultural dynamics in the workplace.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And a big thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey. We hope you found this deep dive as enriching and engaging as we did.
Yeah, me too.
Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to the book and other resources mentioned in this episode.
Absolutely. We've included some great resources to help you continue your exploration of intercultural dynamics.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning,
Yeah.
and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.
See on the next deep dive.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, as we wrap up our exploration of the intercultural dynamics of multicultural working, I'm reflecting on just how much ground we've covered.
Yeah.
Like from personal biography all the way to the complexities of global teamwork.
It really has been quite a journey.
Yeah, and while we've delved deep into each area, this book is so rich with insights that I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
It is, yeah.
What are some final takeaways you think will be particularly helpful for our listeners as they navigate their own multicultural work environments?
You know, one of the most powerful reminders for me is that intercultural competence isn't like a destination that you reach, you know.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process
Right.
of learning, unlearning, and relearning.
It's about embracing the idea that we'll never be finished, I guess, when it comes to understanding and interacting with people from different cultures.
Exactly. There's always more to discover, more nuances to appreciate.
Right.
So cultivating that curiosity and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions is essential.
It's like that saying, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
It feels especially relevant in the context of intercultural dynamics.
Absolutely. And building on that, it's crucial to remember that intercultural competence goes beyond just acquiring knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's about developing a certain mindset,
Right.
a way of being in the world that values diversity and welcomes different perspectives.
It's about kind of embodying those principles of curiosity, empathy, and respect that we've been discussing
Exactly. Yeah.
throughout this whole deep dive.
Precisely. It's about shifting our perspective to see cultural differences, not as obstacles to overcome,
Right.
but rather as valuable resources to be leveraged.
It's that idea of diversity as a strength that we touched on. It's that
Exactly.
when we embrace diversity, we open ourselves up to new possibilities.
For sure.
New ways of thinking and approaching challenges.
Absolutely. And that leads to another key takeaway. Effective communication is paramount
Right.
in these settings. You know, being mindful of our own communication style and how it might be perceived by others is crucial.
And being willing to adapt our communication style to better connect with people from different backgrounds is equally important.
Right. It's about finding that balance between being true to ourselves and being sensitive to the cultural norms and expectations of others.
This deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking and insightful. I want to thank you for sharing your expertise
Well, it's been my pleasure.
and for guiding us through the complexities of the intercultural dynamics of multicultural working.
Happy to do it.
And a big thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey. We hope you found this deep dive as enriching and engaging as we did.
I did too.
Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to the book and other resources we mentioned in this episode.
We've included some really great resources to help you continue your exploration of intercultural dynamics.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.